You're about to see a first for this channel because I messed up a recipe live and on camera while my film crew is here. But if I don't show it to you, that's wasted money. So we're gonna watch it anyway, and I'm gonna show you, stick around to the end, what we need to do to fix these cookies. See you in just a minute. There's nothing worse than feeling like you can't enjoy all the foods everybody else gets. Today we're gonna make perfectly chewy, perfectly balanced, gluten-free oatmeal raisin cookies. Join me in the kitchen, let's get started. So to start this, we're going to start with about a cup of, I'm using refined coconut oil here. So refined does not have any coconut flavor. You can use butter if you want to. This would be 2 sticks of butter, but I know a lot of people who are gluten-free also happen to be dairy-free. So I wanted to go ahead and make this recipe in a way that everybody can enjoy it, but you can certainly adjust it. If you use butter in this recipe, sometimes the cookies are going to be a little bit thinner than if you used a shortening. I do not recommend that you use a vegetable shortening here though. Those are derived from, of course, vegetable oils, which are inflammatory to your body. So try to go with a refined coconut oil if you can get your hands on it. So I have 1 cup, and then I'm gonna add my big heaping bowl of things here. Now I have gone for a combination of sugars. I have, I don't know, 1/4 cup or so of coconut sugar and about 1/2 cup of brown sugar. The original recipe calls for a full cup of sugar. And yes, you need sugar in a cookie to help not just with the sweetness, but also with the texture. So you can dial it back a little bit, but you don't want to take it too far. So I did reduce it a little just because my taste buds, I left this sitting out all night and it got a little stiff, but don't worry. My taste buds are just really not acclimated to sugar anymore, so I think everything's too sweet. So we'll see how this does. Now, if you have never creamed a fat and a sugar together, a lot of times we stop way too soon. So I'm gonna start blending this, and what you're gonna see is it starts out looking like sand, but if you'll press through that a little bit, you're gonna see that this really starts to dissolve. The sugar starts to dissolve when it gets really light and fluffy and smooth. That might take 5 to 7 minutes. So let's do that and then we'll move on from there. Okay, so that's good enough for me. Do you see how this has gone very light and kind of fluffy? That's really what you're looking for. You want to make sure that all the sandy appearance of it is gone and everything is really smooth in there. So next we're going in with our eggs. So ideally your eggs should be room temperature if you can possibly remember to pull them out a little bit early. You can also drop them in like a big measuring cup or a bowl with some really hot water for a couple of minutes, and that helps to warm them up too. I got a shell. Just a minute. See, even the pros get a shell. Okay, I think it depends on your eggs too. Sometimes they do that. Now we're gonna go in, we've got 2 eggs in there, a whole tablespoon of vanilla. Always choose a good vanilla. A real vanilla is very important if you can afford it. They are pretty expensive these days. I'm not measuring this either. We're just gonna put it in. Whole tablespoon, something like that. I am pretty good at eyeballing things, but certainly measure if you need to. Then we're gonna just blend this up really quickly. I could almost just eat that out of the bowl. That whole smell of the vanilla comes up and you just, oh, it's just delicious. Let me scrape down the sides here, make sure we get everybody into the pool fairly. All right. Now, do you see how this is starting to look a little bit curdled? Like, hold on, let me pull a piece out. See this? It's gone all kind of chunky and weird looking. Don't worry, when we put our flour in, this is gonna go away. So if you see that, no problem, okay? Now, let's talk flours here for this. This is gluten-free, and a lot of times people feel really overwhelmed with that. I'm using here like a measure for measure, all-purpose gluten-free flour. So I really like King Arthur. I make my own. I do have a recipe for a gluten-free flour that's not gritty because I hate biting into gluten-free food and feeling that it's like sandy, and I just hate it. So this one's not very gritty, and that's why I choose it, but I certainly will leave you a recipe for mine in the description box in case you want to make it yourself. So I've used about 1.5 cups of this gluten-free all-purpose flour, and I've got it back here in a bowl. I also have, in this bowl, I've got a teaspoon of baking powder. So baking soda is what a lot of recipes call for, but baking powder is going to give you better rise, so we're going to use that. And I've got a teaspoon of cinnamon and 3/4 teaspoon of a good sea salt in here as well. So let me just give these a little stir in the bowl. Kind of get everybody together. I'm just going to put these right in. The joy of a 1-for-1 gluten-free flour is just that you don't have to worry about conversions and how much of this one and how much of that one. Is it the same as, because gluten-free flours don't swap for wheat flour in recipes 1-to-1 very often, so that's really convenient. Now, we're just gently going to mix these together because we don't have gluten. We don't really have to worry about making these tough, but we just want to mix it until the flour is absorbed, and we'll go from there. I remember the day, I've been gluten-free for off and on for about 10 years now. And I remember the day a couple of years ago, my mom pulled up in the driveway and she brought me a little gluten-free birthday cake that she had made for me. And she took the time to go online, find a recipe, buy all these little individual ingredients and try to put one together for me. And so it's special if you've got somebody in your life who's gluten-free, who can't enjoy what everybody else can. I know they would appreciate you taking the time to make them something. It was really special that my mom did that for me. Now, let's do our raisins next. So what I've done with my raisins actually is put them in a bowl of hot water. This is 1.5 cups of raisins. We are not messing around here. There's a lot. So if you want to do a little less, you can. But I put these in a bowl of hot water and it kind of helps to plump them a little bit. And you don't end up with that like super rubbery, hard kind of final result. So all I'm going to do is just squeeze these out. You don't want the water. You just want, it's not going to hurt them, just give them a little squeeze before you put them in. And that softening really does change the texture of the cookie. It's much nicer. So we'll get those in. And like I said, if this is too many raisins for you, feel free to dial it back a little if you want to. Okay, get everybody in. But what I find is that people who like oatmeal raisin really like oatmeal raisin, so nobody will mind too much, hopefully. Okay, so I'm gonna switch to my spoon for this. I think my beaters are probably have met their match on thickness here. You can certainly do this in a stand mixer if you want to, if you have a KitchenAid or anything like that. I own one, I just don't get it out a lot, so feel free if you need the extra power. Okay, so I'm just gonna stir these in all their glory in here. And next I'm gonna put in, yes, we will get to the oats, but I'm going to do the nuts next. So these are completely optional. If you're nut-free or you have a nut allergy, you can leave these out. But I just have about 1/4 cup of walnuts that I'm going to put in. These things are hearty. Then we're going in with our oats. So let's talk about these. Oats are not all universally gluten-free when you buy them in the store. Naturally, yes, oats are gluten-free, but they're often processed in facilities where other wheat products are done. So you need to make sure that the container says gluten-free oats. And we're going for old-fashioned here. You can use a quick oat if you want. I like the texture and the hardiness of a good old-fashioned one, so try to find those if you can. This is not the place for Quaker instant oats or anything like that, okay? You just lose a lot of flavor. So this recipe calls for 3 cups of oats. Let's get all those in. I'm just gonna do it this way next. Okay, then you gotta see if you can get it to all mixed together. All right, let's start stirring that up. I wish you could smell all the cinnamon, vanilla, you can smell the raisins. If you want to buy a raisin that's organic, I get them a lot of times on Thrive Market, but that's certainly not anything you have to do. There are a lot of great options for good baking products on Thrive Market. I'll leave you a link to where you can shop there if you want to give it a try. You can get 40% off your first order and have all your groceries mailed to your house. It's pretty handy. Almost there. Should have picked a bigger spoon, but as usual, I either get a bowl that's too small or a spoon that's too small. So once you've got these mixed together, we're going to have to go ahead and chill these. This is essential. So make sure that you plan ahead for this. I have not preheated my oven yet, but I will as soon as I get these on to chill for a few minutes. The chilling process helps prevent a lot of spreading in the oven. So you can do either 10 minutes in your freezer for the whole cookie sheet, or you can put them in the refrigerator for 15 or 20, or even just put this whole bowl in the refrigerator for a couple of hours and come back to it later. Okay, I think we're good. So let me show you how to get these all on the pan. Now you might need to do 1 couple of big cookie sheets. So I'm just gonna start with one right now, and then off camera, if I need to do another one, I will. So this is actually a half cookie sheet, and you're just gonna kind of clump these together, and I don't know, that's about a tablespoon and a half roughly of dough. You know, do the best you can. Place them a couple of inches apart. And you can always go back if somebody's like huge or somebody's tiny, you can rob from one and give it to the other one until you've got them all pretty even. So I just kind of squish mine together on the spoon to make sure everybody's holding. Well, see, that guy's big and that guy's small. So I'm just gonna put some of that on there. Okay. And I'm just gonna go ahead and fill this pan up. I'll probably get about 9 on this one maybe, and I'm going to put them in the freezer for 10 or 12 minutes and let them get nice and cold, and then they're going into a 350 degree oven for 10 to 12 minutes. You don't want to take them any longer than that. They just want the edges to start to get a little bit golden brown, and then you're going to pull them out and transfer them to a cooling rack. I'll be back to show you what they look like in just a minute. Into the freezer we go, and I'll be back in a few minutes. So we have to have a little talk about what just happened here. My cookies did not perform like I was hoping they were going to in this batch. And human being, I thought it would be fair to show you what happened and what I did to try to troubleshoot the problem. So if it happens to you, you can fix it. I've gone over in my head what might have been the issue, and I think I know. So let me show you what happened when I baked these. This particular batch did not spread not 1 iota of an inch. They stayed exactly like I put them in the oven. Now, they taste great. They're fine that way, and if you pull them apart, they're actually quite moist on the inside, and that's where everything went south. It was several hours later before I realized what had actually happened. I racked my brain about what the problem was with those cookies and why they didn't turn out like this. See? Perfect cookie. And it was then that I sat up and I went, I know what I did, and it was this. This is cup for cup gluten-free flour blend. The day I tested this recipe, I used this and not my King Arthur. So I'm gonna leave you a link in the description box for this flour, and we're all gonna learn a lesson about the fact that sometimes your ingredients really do matter if you want a recipe to turn out like it's supposed to. See you guys. So I put another batch in hoping that they would spread a little bit more, and here's what they did. So let me slide this over. This is hot still. They did a little better, but what I also did is about halfway through their bake time, I took a spoon and kind of flattened them down a little bit. And again, their texture is lovely. You know, they're not suffering in the flavor department, but they just did not spread. They're still gonna be good. So I want you to know that it's okay for some things to not turn out like you hope they would. Just celebrate that the flavor is still there and say, next time I'll try again and it'll work out better. Thanks for being here with me, for watching me be a human being and make mistakes, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. Take care, bye.